Welcome to Pieguy Pick'em. This is the second of the NFL season preview shows. I am your host, of course, Mike, aka Pieguy. It looks like I'll be flying solo today. I don't believe Jeremy will be joining us. He had a last-minute thing come up, so it looks like we'll be flying solo, and that's fine. That means maybe we can get through this in under an hour. And do as we have 8 teams to break down today: the Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Vegas Raiders, the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Arizona Cardinals. So we'll start with the Super Bowl losers of last year, that being the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I am a little bit worried about the Kansas City Chiefs not only being the Super Bowl losers, and we know the Super Bowl losers from previous years have had rough goes. San Francisco last year, everything just kind of fell apart. There were injuries to blame for that. But something like the Chiefs won, 15 games last year? They probably didn't deserve to win 50 games. They were the 1 seed. They made the Super Bowl. They beat Buffalo again. There was was this the one where Bass missed the kick? It feels like a long time ago, but Buffalo takes up Baltimore. Mark Andrews drops that pass. Baltimore power rated best team in the league by most handicappers, or Baltimore, Philly, but Baltimore the best team in the AFC, and they get to avoid them. They get to play Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. Great game. Buffalo comes up short again. Attila is old as time. But there were issues on the Chiefs last year. We had Rashee Rice getting hurt. Now he's got legal issues pending. Travis Kelce's getting old. Noah Gray was Noah Gray your TD1 last year? I don't know. He even Travis Kelce admitted this week. He hasn't been as focused. With the paparazzi and of course being the bow to Taylor Swift. Of course, there's always the official advantage, and they have longtime defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, who they retained. But look at this odds going across the bottom of the screen here. The Chiefs are only minus 110 to win the division. I mean, that's fairly cheap for the Kansas City Chiefs, considering they've won this division. It feels like 10 years. I think it has been 10 years in a row they've won this division, because I think the last team to win the division that wasn't Kansas City was the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning, if I'm not mistaken. The year they won the Super Bowl, because Alex Smith won it. Feels like every year that time. The Raiders were on the cusp of winning it, but Derek Carr got hurt. Yeah, I feel like the Chiefs have won, and they've been to the AFC Championship. 5-6 times in a row. They've lost to the Bengals. That's basically it. Everybody else, they've had their number. Oh, and Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So, this team has dominated the AFC and the AFC West for years and years and years, yet only minus 110 to win the division. So you see, something's up. Maybe it's a bad price. Maybe take advantage. The Hollywood Brown's coming in, but he's a little bit banged up. He wasn't. He's a little bit of a, I'm not saying bust, but underperformer for where he was drafted. He was expected to be, wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. Hasn't really panned out. He's wide receiver 3 behind Worthy and Rice on this Chiefs team. He didn't say he's wide receiver 4 if you consider Juju Smith-Schuster is back with the Chiefs. They lose Samaje Perine, but Elijah Mitchell comes in. That's basically a lateral move. in the running back department. Obviously, they have Patrick Mahomes. Gardner Minshew backing up. That's pretty good backup. He's the top backup of the league. So that week 18 game, if the Chiefs are wrapped up everything like they often do. That's maybe Gardner Minshew is a quarterback you want to back, getting a couple points there. The defense is solid. Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis leading the charge. Drew Tranquil, he has injury concerns. The offensive line, not great. Josh Simmons and Jawan Taylor are not good tackles. The middle's pretty strong, but Trey Smith at guard, pretty good. But we know Jawan Taylor, Mr. Holding penalty every 5 seconds, it feels like, when he's on the field. Every other play is 10 yards back. Elite special teams, Harrison Bucker, Matt Ariza is going to come in as the punter. Here he is in. I believe this is the guy that the Bills had to cut. And then let me just make sure it's the same guy I'm thinking of. He was drafted by the Bills. Yeah. So he was with the Bills, and there was some allegations against him, but those, I guess, have either subsided. So he's back in the NFL. Remigio, as the punt returner, I liked him. He made some plays when they had some injuries at wide receiver. So he's not bad, a depth piece. He might be a guy to watch out for in the preseason. But yes, it's a good team. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have fast receivers. You have Andy Reid. Andy Reid's been a pretty good head coach in terms of season win totals. Him and Mahomes have not disappointed when it comes to season win totals. So I don't know. I'm not really jumping up to bet an under win total with the Kansas City Chiefs. But I despite it being only minus 110 at certain spots, minus 120 other spots, I am not in love with this team to win the division. I think there is, for the first time, challengers. We've said the Chargers have been their challenger a couple times before with Phillip Rivers and then Justin Herbert, but they never really lived up to that. Now you kind of have two teams are in like the plus 300 range with the division, 9.5 win total, 2 less than the Chiefs, but a couple of wins against the Chiefs, and those can flip pretty quickly. Let's take a look at the Chiefs' schedule here. No, that is the wrong schedule. That's the Raiders' schedule. We'll get to them later. But the Kansas City Chiefs, take a look at their schedule here. The Los Angeles Chargers, they opened the season in Brazil. Of course, Philly opened the season in Brazil last year and went on to win the Super Bowl after winning their first game in Brazil against the Packers. So is that foreshadowing? But then look at this, week 2, Philly off of Thursday night opening banner game. Chiefs of the international travel spot. That is a bad game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Go to the New York Giants, get the Sunday Night Football game. I don't know why, but maybe the Chiefs, they'll find a way to, underwhelm for 3 quarters and win at the end like they often do. Baltimore's on a short week though. That game's at home, so that'd be an interesting game. Chiefs could win that game. Chiefs could win every game. Last year they almost did. But it's definitely a harder schedule. At Jacksonville, not the toughest game. Detroit. Who's had their number in recent seasons, the Detroit Lions. They've played very, very well against the Chiefs in a couple of meetings. Kind of jump-started their run to the NFC Championship with that Week 1 win over the Chiefs 2 years ago, the Detroit Lions. Vegas, Washington on Monday Night Football, at Buffalo before. It's a tough opening stretch, right? International game followed by Super Bowl champs, Baltimore, Detroit, Washington, Buffalo, the elite, and then at your road game, like the teams against the lesser opponents are on the road at Jacksonville, at Giants, and then the divisional game there. You can slip up in one of those games. The Chiefs aren't exactly one to run up the score on teams, but then this is why it's minus 110 right now, but you look at that first stretch. First 9 games could be trouble, but then you look at the second half. It's at Denver, But yeah, and Denver's coming off Thursday football. You're getting Denver off the bye at Denver. That's a pretty good spot because that's one of the challengers, according to the odds, in your division. You get the Colts. The Colts coming off a bye, but I mean, it's the Colts. It's Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. Who knows at quarterback? You go to Dallas for Thanksgiving. Who knows? That could be a tricky spot. I'm going to write off the Cowboys. We talked about them last week. There's issues there, but the issues are in management. If things work out on the field, Cowboys are great front runners. Houston, Sunday Night Football, the Chargers. The Chargers on a short week, though. Denver, Thursday night. You get Thursday night at home late in the season against Denver. I mean, the NFL doing you a favor. Tennessee, Vegas probably wins there. It's a soft landing after a tough start. And you look at it, if you win week 1 against the Chargers, you get Denver off the bye, and then you get Denver at Thursday night at home late in the season. I mean, you win those 3 games, you take care of the Chargers on a short week for Monday Night Football, like you're winning the division again, minus 110. You take care of your other games, Vegas twice. You split with some of these tough games. I wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs won the division again. I mean, I'm not, splitting the atom, saying, the Chiefs might win the division, but there is some concern, though. The offensive line concern, as I mentioned, the Super Bowl hangover concerns, and they got beaten by the Eagles. That was a rough loss. And there are challengers, and there are hungry challengers. It feels like they've escaped the knife. You know what I mean? They've escaped some of these playoff games, some of these matchups barely. You know what I mean? Like where the tough Baltimore teams, the tough Buffalo teams, and then they get paired up against the worst of them. Baltimore plays Buffalo. You gotta go play Houston. You know what I mean? The Miami comes to town with a hot offense, and it's minus 40 outside. You know what I mean? A couple years ago, like it's not. They've had some breaks, and I think the breaks might stop this year. But I'm not betting against it. I mean, this team has been a juggernaut. They still have Travis Kelce on the team. The NFL wants the publicity. They're not going to, I'm not saying that they're going to get, the NFL is going to hose the other team, but the Chiefs aren't going to get hosed on some calls. I mean, like, at worst, for them, it's going to be called down the middle. So that's what I think about the Chiefs. But let's talk about one of the more interesting teams in the division, the Denver Broncos, who made the playoffs last year, had a lead, and they got cooked by the Bills. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, we talked about them last week. I mean, they have, in my opinion, the best player in the league. They have a soft cookie schedule. This coming season, they have a great offensive line led by Dawkins. It's no shame losing to the Buffalo Bills. So, we're going to have to score on pretty much everybody in the NFL. So, and you got that, the rookie stinker out of the way. I know Bo Nix is like 30 years old, but he's still a rookie last year. He looked pretty good. The team around him is really good. Let's take a look at, pull up the Denver Broncos roster here. But they had a really good defense last year, obviously led by Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain, Zach Allen up front causing chaos, among other names. But I felt like every time I would middle of the season, especially last year, we made some money betting Denver Broncos. Because I felt like every time I watched them, like Zach Allen's blowing up the line of scrimmage, or Zach Allen is cleaning up when somebody else blows up the line of scrimmage. Whether it be John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones. Look at the defensive lineup. Alex Singleton, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bonito was excellent last year. Obviously, Surtain. Then you got Hufanga. Free safety Brandon Jones. Now, what kind of screwed the Broncos last year? Now they're obviously you have Surtain on one side. Who's on the other side? Well, it's Riley Moss. Riley Moss is pretty good, but Riley Moss got hurt, and then the guy behind Riley Moss is Chris Abrams-Drain, or maybe PJ Locke, or Damari Mathis. Some of these depth guys. Jaquan McMillan, your nickelback. They're not Riley Moss. And especially when they went up against the Bengals in the penultimate week of the season, the Bengals have a good wide receiver 2. They basically have 2 wide receiver 1s in T. Higgins, and they're like, oh, Surtain's on Chase. Well, we're just going to throw to Higgins, and Higgins had like 3 touchdowns. So maybe that's the Denver Broncos' weakness, is that if you have a good wide receiver 2, this defense can be beat. But I mean, this defense is loaded. This offensive line is outstanding. You have Garrett Bowles, Pro Bowl left tackle, Ben Powers at guard, Luke Wattenberg, Quinn Manners, and Mike McGlinchey. You know, Mike McGlinchey's not the best right tackle in the world, but he's pretty damn good. 9th overall pick a few years ago. Devon Vele kind of came around as your wide receiver 3 last year. The wide receiver, I'm not sold. I'm like, you got, Cortland Sutton's very good, but Marvin Mims, never been a Marvin Mims guy. Evan Ingram should help at tight end this year. They got J.K. Dobbins, poaching him from the Chargers. So, yeah, skill position's not the best. You have R.J. Harvey, obviously, who they drafted. Troy Franklin, I believe, is one of their draft picks. Adam Troutman's pretty good backup tight end, looking at this depth chart here. And then, they got a bunch, like Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime. Like, they even ran the ball last year, but it felt like they didn't really have a running back last year. Like, it felt like we say running backs don't matter, and Denver kind of tried to test that theory. And basically, all the running backs for this, like Jaleel McLaughlin, Javonte Williams, they're all the same. I think Dobbins might be an upgrade. I think this Harvey kid might be an upgrade at running back. We're starting to see the return of the running backs. The running backs may matter quite a bit. Jeremy would be happy to hear me say that. The running backs may matter quite a bit, especially with the Saquon Barkley and the stuff he did. Kicker Will Lutz, very good kicker, veteran kicker. Sean Payton trusts him. Of course, the big addition last year was Sean Payton, turning this team around. Russell Wilson's gone. Bo Nix comes in. The key to the season for the Broncos, they have the talent. Okay, I think they could use a little more skill position. They could use a little bit of depth at corner. But when you have the best corner in the league, you have CB1 of the NFL. Basically, like if you had a fantasy football draft, defensive players, it's Patrick Surtain might go first overall. He's that good. They don't throw to him. I mean, you basically can wipe out your opponent's wide receiver 1 with one guy. So it's a luxury to have a player like that. I remember the Jacksonville Jaguars went to the AFC Championship game against Brady because they had Jalen Ramsey basically took away our best guy, and we were playing the Steelers and they had Antonio Brown and who else. It really comes into play when you have a thin skill position group on the other side. Trent Sherfield, A.T. Perry, their depth chart at wide receiver, not my favorite. But I do like they are strong in the trenches, very strong in the trenches. They have a top offensive line. They have a top defensive line. They have, best cornerback in the league. You got, Evan Ingram should help in the skill position group. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey should help in the skill position group. Can Bo Nix take that second-year leap? You felt like he was close last year. I felt like he was close last year. I feel like the coaching staff is good. They have a kicker who's returning punts. Marvin Mims is a good punt returner. I don't know about wide receiver 2, but he's a good punt returner. If I'm the Broncos, I don't know how much cap space they have because I think the Russell Wilsons might be still in the books. But you have a rookie quarterback. You have some. Maybe you go talk to Miami and see what they want for him. Or you talk to some of these lower tier teams and see what they want for some of their, high. You don't need a Tyreek Hill, but you need a wide receiver 2, a bona fide wide receiver 2. I feel like that this team needs. Like Sutton's great. Okay, if Troy Franklin doesn't work out, or another one of these depth wide receivers, or Marvin Mims, I think you need a wide receiver 2. But you're nitpicking a little bit because the team is very, very good. Let's take a look at their schedule here. I am high on the Denver Broncos going into the season. I feel like they ended the season well. They had a little bit of a cake schedule last year. Okay, but look at this. Look at this. You want to talk about a golden opening to your season. Tennessee at home. Cam Ward making his first start Mile High. That's one thing I didn't talk about. One of the best home field edges in the NFL, Mile High Stadium, obviously in Denver, with the altitude, the cold, the fans. At home against the rookie quarterback making his first NFL start. -8. 8-point favorites in that game. It's pretty much a win. Then you go to on the road. It's Indianapolis. Who knows who's starting a quarterback? They're a little bit strong in the trenches, so maybe it's not the best matchup for you. But I think your defense should have a significant matchup against their skill position and against their quarterback, who's Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. Okay, Chargers, Cincinnati Eagles. Okay, tough stretch there, but then you go to Tottenham. You play the Jets, who knows? I bet their win total over last week as my best bet for the show last week over 6. I found a 5.5 for cheap, but in terms of the show over 6, I will be recording that. Then you have this spot, and I saw this spot on the schedule, and it concerns me. You go to London, you don't take the bye, you have to fly home and face the Giants, who are on extended rest. And by week 7, still might be playing, their guts out with Russell Wilson. Maybe it's the Russell Wilson revenge game. I don't know, but I think that's a tough spot for Denver. It is the Giants. So, it's a bottom team in the league. But that's a game the Giants could steal. And then, that means you got to win some of these other games against, the Bengals, Philly, Chargers to make up for that one. Dallas and Houston are kind of a little bit of wild cards. Houston would be interesting because Houston's also very strong on the D-line, but their O-line is not very good. Vegas, Vegas always give them a little bit of trouble. We'll talk about Vegas in a bit. The KC, we talked about this already. They get, this team is kind of cursed because they get KC off the bye, and then they get KC up Thursday night, but it's on the road, and it's late in the season, which is the worst time. You don't want to play Thursday night football on the road late in the season. You want to play nice and early in the season when people are fresh, not when they're dead tired on a 5-day week. That's an awful, awful spot. Both awful spots. I have the horse on the thumbnail of this video. I was high on the horse. He's the Denver Broncos. But you look at this, it's just I want to bet Denver to win the division. I really do. I really like this team. I really think the Chiefs are in trouble. But you just look at the spots they have to play Kansas City. It's awful. It's not good. You get your bye, okay, but then your bye is neutral as you're playing Washington on the road, also off their bye. That's a good team. Vegas on the road. It's a divisional game. It's not exactly a win. Green Bay, okay, you get them at home. I'm not. A lot of people are high in Green Bay. I'm still unsure on that one. Jacksonville, wild card-ish team, but you should win that one at home. And then, top of the Chiefs and the Chargers. Who knows? Maybe that's for the 7 seed, the 5 seed. That last game might matter. I don't think you're going to be able to rest your guys week 18, unless, of course, you beat the Chiefs week 17 to win the division. But yeah, it's going to be, it starts easy. So you get the confidence going. If you win that Chargers game, that's a big swing game. You win the Bengals game, that could be a big swing game. That's a Monday night game. It's at home. But you go to Philly on a short week. You have scheduled losses here. That KC game is probably a scheduled loss. That Philly game looks like a scheduled loss. That Giants game is a tricky spot, but it's the Giants. They might be able to win. The Giants might just be awful. The Thursday night game late in the season, not a great spot. It looks like your bye is neutralized. So there's no outside of week 1, there's not really a scheduled win here. You know what I mean? Like I said, that Giants game, maybe the Jets game. The Jets, but it's an international game. Things get weird. So, it should start 2-0. They have a definitely, you look at their front 9, way easier than the Chiefs front 9, but it's not the Chargers. I think this team is better than the Chargers because now they also lacked receiver depth. But, if Pat Surtain takes away McConkey, what the fuck are the Chargers going to do? I don't know. I want to bet Denver to win the division. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I might wait till the Chiefs have their bye. They go through that tough stretch, and maybe Denver's up 2 on them because, they have those 2 easy ones to start. Dallas sucks. Houston's O-line isn't any good. They found a way to cover T. Higgins. You know what I mean? Like, they could be 8-1. Like, it's not another round. If they're 8-1, I don't know. But, I mean, they got to come out hot. I don't know if they're going to be, because look at the Vegas. It's a Thursday game, too, but it's a home game. You get 10 days before the Chiefs game, but then you slip up in the division against Vegas. It's. I'm not liking the schedule here. I'm not. I think Jacksonville might kind of be good. Green Bay is probably going to be, a good team. They might even be better than good. Washington's a road game. The down the stretch is tough. But if you like Denver to win the division, you better right now before the season starts, because that first half of the schedule, that's where they're going to get a lot of their wins. The first 2 games, the Jets game, Dallas at home, the Giants game's trouble, but Cincinnati trouble because of Higgins. The Philly game looks like a horrible spot. But you never know. Things change. We don't want too much on strength of schedule because, we don't really teams get hurt or players get hurt. Teams are bad. Teams are good. I do like the Broncos going in plus 300. I might get involved just because I want to fade the Chiefs. There's this gut feeling that the Chiefs are in trouble with Kelsey distractions, with a bad interior front, with Rashee Rice. Who knows what's going to happen there? I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs, I look at the roster. The roster still looks pretty good. The Chiefs probably still find a way to win the division. So maybe I just watch Denver, win the games they should win. Maybe they're 6-3, 7-2, and the Chiefs are, 5-4, 6-3, and you can get the Chiefs plus money to win the division week 11 or week 10 after Denver beats Vegas, and then Chiefs coming off the bye, and then the Chiefs, give them the business, and then maybe they take an L of Washington, Green Bay, and Thursday Night Football. Week 17, the Chiefs do it again. Win the division. I wouldn't be shocked. So I will not be betting the Broncos to win the division. I will be patient with this one. Let's talk about... Now, I want to spend a lot of time because those are the 2 teams I think who are the top. Let's talk about the other teams, though, because we have lots of things to talk about in terms of... That's not what I wanted. In terms of Los Angeles Chargers, because they could win the division. They're about the same ranking as the Broncos, but I just don't buy it. They signed Michael Williams, and he retired. The Los Angeles Chargers. This team just can't catch a break. They have no home field. Najee Harris with the eye issue. It feels like this team is starting to become a comedy of errors. Mike Williams, he's retired. So who do they go inside? Keenan Allen. He's back too. Maybe he retires too. Oh, this team is funny. That's a good team. Joe Alt, left tackle. Trey Pipkins, right tackle. Actually, I don't know. Is Trey Pipkins any? Mekhi Becton at guard. That's a pretty good get. The offensive line's decent. Bradley Bozeman, Zion Johnson around it. Obviously, Justin Herbert, quarterback. But now, without Najee Harris, so we don't know what's going on with this eye thing. Okay, he's hiding it. Somebody's hiding it, anyways. So I don't know the extent of this eye thing with Harris. But if he isn't starting, that means you have rookie running backs. Now, they're running backs, right? So they should be fine. But Amarian Hampton, Kamini Vidal, and Hassan Haskins are your running back room right now. And people have high hopes for Hampton. He didn't run much in the first game. They smoked the Lions Hall of Fame game. And then your wide receivers, Ladd McConkey's great. Ladd McConkey's excellent. Ladd McConkey, we'll talk about this in the fantasy show on Monday, could be, a pretty good draft pick in fantasy because he's going to get 1 million targets. I mean, your wide receiver 2 is old Butterfingers, Quentin Johnson. Your wide receiver 3 is, 35, 37-year-old Keenan Allen. I don't know how old he is, but, very old Keenan Allen. Will Disley at tight end, he had a good season a little bit ago. The defense, now, your Tart nose tackle, I like him, but he's a little long in the Khalil Mack's a little long in the tooth. He's very, very good. Joey Bosa obviously is gone. He's in Buffalo. He was hurt too much. Buffalo's taking a flyer on a pretty good pass rusher. The big loss is Poona Ford here, and he's a very, very good run stopper. Obviously, you have Derwin James, your strong safety, very, very good safety. Dante Jackson and Harib Still are going to be your – he's the nickel. And Cam Hart are going to be your cornerbacks. You have Benjamin St. Juste on your cornerback depth. I never want to see him. He's a Canadian. Good for him for making the NFL. He's not good. There's some questions here in the cornerback room. Cam Hart, not exactly a player I would put up there as my cornerback too, if I could. He has a little bit of a nagging injury in preseason. It looks like he was around 5 pick in 2024. Yeah, I think there's problems in the backfield minus Dante Jackson. Poona Ford, and Denzel Perryman comes down linebacker. Feels like that guy's been around forever. When was he drafted? Denzel Perryman. It's 2015, so he's, like 30-something now? Yeah, 92. He's 32. You got an aging defense. Yeah, this is Cameron Dicker. Obviously, is very, very good. J.K. Scott, not my favorite punter in the league. The Chargers should be good. They should win games. Let's take a look at their schedule. As you can tell, I'm not very high on them. Like there are holes on the Chargers and places it's problems. After Khalil Mack, the front seven isn't great. The offensive line is good, but after McConkey, the skill position is lacking. You're going to need somebody to step up. But they've been waiting for somebody to step up for, a couple of years now. And Quentin Johnson drops the ball. Their running backs are mid. And the running game was good last year. We know what they want to do. But, see, obviously we mentioned that they start in Brazil, international game. Then they go to Vegas, but it's a 10 p.m. Monday night game. So they have, almost 12 days off. Denver, the 3 divisional games to start. And then the Giants. So, we're going to know right away the Chargers division sort of standing because they play 3 in a row right off the bat. I don't know if that's a good thing. But, you start 3-0. I mean, all of a sudden, you're the favorite. So, plus 320, you'd be laughing to the bank. Not for me, though. Then the Giants, you know what I mean? A nice little ease-over game. Washington. Top everybody plays the division, plays Washington. They get Miami as an extra game. That Miami's a mess right now. We talked about them last week. I said maybe they win 10 games if this is, it looks like a disaster down there. Indianapolis, it's not the toughest schedule here. Minnesota Thursday Night Football, who knows? McCarthy, the Denver's got to play Green Bay. Kansas City's got to play the Lions. You get Minnesota, a little bit easier. Tennessee, Pittsburgh, I'd rather play Pittsburgh than the Bengals. At Jacksonville, but Denver. Denver. That's that's wrong. Denver is off Thursday Night Football. That doesn't matter in that game. That was from the Chiefs one. I copy paste it. The bye, Vegas, Philly, the Eagles. With extra rest there off the Black Friday game. Chiefs, Dallas, Houston, Denver. It's a little bit tough down the stretch. Philly, KC, at Dallas could be trouble. But I don't know. Dallas is there's not going to be too many Charger fans there. Where sometimes you see the opposing fans in Dallas. Not this time. Houston, Denver to end it. Those could be playoff implication games. the schedule's a little bit easier for the Chargers, so I can see, why they were. I don't think they have the horses, no pun intended, that Denver does. They're a little bit weaker everywhere except quarterback because Justin Herbert's very good, and they have a better kicker. So the guys who make big impacts on the offense and special teams, but the defense I think is taking a step back. But Khalil Mack. He hasn't shown me, age. He's an injury concern. And that's the thing. If Khalil Mack gets hurt, he probably will at some point during the season with his age. That pass rush is going to take a step back. And maybe, teams are just going to, what they've done to the Chargers for years, and just run the ball down their throat, especially without Poona Ford. So they have potential, though. I mean, there's wins of this schedule. You should beat Vegas. You should beat the Giants. You should beat Miami. You should beat Indy. You definitely have it's a coin flip Minnesota. You should beat Tennessee. You should beat Pittsburgh. Jacksonville again. You should beat. It's on the road, so it's a coin flip against the Jags. You should beat Vegas. You should beat Dallas, but it might be a coin flip. And then Houston, Denver. So there's a lot of coin flips against the Broncos, the Texans, Jacksonville on the road, Minnesota. You win the coin flips. If you can somehow steal the international game early against the Chiefs, sure, the Los Angeles Chargers could win the AFC West, but it's not for me. I think Denver's a little bit stronger. If I was going to bet me to win the West, outside of the Chiefs, it would be Denver. I don't blame anybody for taking a stab. If you think, hey, you get word that, training camp isn't going good in Denver, or the Chiefs have some issues getting to Brazil, and they can steal 3-0 early off in the division. But even the Raiders in autumn, sometimes the autumn wind is in fact a Raider. Oh, I gotta remove this. I'll just go back to here. There we go. Alrighty. The Las Vegas Raiders, the biggest underdog in the division, plus 1,600, I believe I have it. It's coming across the screen now. Yes, plus 1,600, the best number, or one of the best numbers available. 6.5, 7. The Raiders have taken some over money, and I am in favor of this over money, believe it or not. I do believe the over money is the correct thing, and that's because the Raiders went out in the offseason and they decided they had enough of losing, and we're going to at least they want to be at least mediocre. They picked up Geno Smith, they picked up Pete Carroll, they drafted a big bad running back in the first round. They kept wide receiver 1, Jacoby Myers. Obviously, they have Mayer, Bowers at tight end. They traded some defensive players away, but in the secondary, Pete Carroll, can boost the secondary. Colton Miller is a very good left tackle. We got to see what's going on here with Alex Kappa. He has some injury concerns. What is going on with Mr. Kappa? Just going to check here. He was the pickup from the Bengals, and I really, really like this pickup. I think he's kind of good. Apparently he might be in trouble, and he's battling a rib injury, and he's not looking good in camp. That's not good for the Raiders, because I thought that was the kind of a good pickup. Maybe they're smart. Obviously, they have an elite. Maybe the Bengals are smarter than I thought. They also picked up Jermaine Pratt from the Bengals. I don't know about this one. He didn't look very good last year. I don't know if I'll be rushing to pick up any one of the Bengals defense. Jeremy Chin is on this team at strong safety. Obviously, they have Max Crosby. And Adam Butler was very good last year. Devin White, again, they picked up a lot of – they lost Spillane. That's kind of a big one. He was good for them last year. They picked up a lot of guys who are a little long in the tooth who should, when healthy, make a difference. I think the goal here is just to win some games. The Raiders aren't – I'd be shocked if they made like a big run, but they have the players to be mediocre. Pete Carroll should coach up a little bit of the secondary. Nate Hobbs is gone, traded to Green Bay. So that hurts. But like I said, PK is good at coaching up secondary. They have a legit coach. They have a legit quarterback. Are they the top coach in the league? No. Are they the top? Is Geno Smith the top quarterback in the league? Absolutely not. But is he middle of the road, average NFL quarterback? Absolutely. So the Raiders should win some games. And let's take a look at their schedule. Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and who was the coach last year? I mean, they had Pierce. Was Pierce the coach last year? Or was he before? I think it was Pierce. He's not a head coach. And then before that, they had Gruden, who had the scandal, and then you had Josh McDaniels. It's been one embarrassment after another. The team wants to look somewhat sufficient. They want to get butts in the seats. They want, hey, at least we're going to see Geno Smith throw a couple touchdowns to Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. Maybe we'll see Ashton Genty break a big run. They want their games to be in fun. They don't want to go, 2-15. And is that correct for the future of the Raiders? Probably not, because you want, to draft a nice quarterback, or Geno Smith's not the long-term answer. But maybe they get the culture going, because the culture's really been toxic. Scandal, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce. There was Bisaccia, remember him? I think they made it the playoffs that year, covered against the Bengals. But I think the team and the fans have seen enough of the Gardner Minshew and O'Connell show. Take a look at the schedule at New England, winnable game. Like I said, I think New England's a little bit overrated. That's definitely a winnable game against Drake May and company. The Chargers come off internationally. That's a winnable game. Are they going to be favored? No, but is it going to be within 3-4? Probably. At Washington, Washington's like, okay, that's a tough game. But Chicago at home, you can win that one. At Indy versus Tennessee, the Raiders could be 3-3, 4-2 here. I wouldn't be shocked. At KC, okay, that's a tough one. But Aiden O'Connell's like one of the last quarterbacks to beat Mahomes after Allen and Hurts. So, Jacksonville, you get but Jacksonville's off the bye, so your bye's neutralized. That kind of sucks. At Denver Thursday night, yeah, that kind of sucks. We get Dallas on Monday. Dallas is off the bye, so that sucks. We get Cleveland. Cleveland's a disaster. You get a lot of teams off the bye here, man. They didn't do any favors to the Raiders. Schedule Chargers off of bye. They do get a couple of primetime games, at Denver versus Dallas, the early Monday night against the Chargers. They are featured somewhat. It's a popular team. Denver at home, we've always given them a little bit of trouble. The Eagles, the Texans, the Giants. So, there's 7 wins here. Like Giants, Cleveland, Tennessee, Indy, Chicago, and New England. Maybe you win one of those. That's 5 already. You win a divisional game, you usually do win 1 or 2 of those. Dallas maybe beat them. They can get to 7 wins. They have a competent quarterback. They have decent skill position players. I know after Jacoby Myers, the depth chart, Trey Tucker is okay. The receiver 3 that's listed as Dante Thornton Jr. That's not good. Mayer and Bowers. Mayer's Bowers is your wide receiver 1, really, and McMyers is wide receiver 2. Well, Myers is a wide receiver 1. He's very, very good. So, yeah, they're thin at the top. That the problem with this team is that Crosby, Smith, Myers, and Bowers get hurt. It's pretty top heavy for a bad team. They're pretty top heavy because Max Crosby is very, very good. Geno Smith is average, but you need your quarterback. Genty might be pretty good running back. Jacoby Myers is very good wide receiver, and Colton Miller very good left tackle. But there's not much depth there, and their games should be entertaining. They should be putting up a fight. I'm not betting a Raiders over because, they're fragile a little bit here. And they're in a tough division. There were 3 playoff teams in this division last year, and now they're playing the AFC South this year. So, that's what it says. But, the fact you get to play Cleveland, that's positive. They play Cleveland, Tennessee, and the Giants. You know what I mean? That's all at home. So, in my opinion, this team should be starting off with 3 wins. Because based on the upgrades he made last season, those should be wins. You win a couple of road games. Maybe you beat Chicago. Maybe you beat Jackson. Jacksonville's not bad. That's kind of tough. Maybe you win a divisional game. So things looking up for the Raiders in terms of like their record. They shouldn't be an embarrassment. I think that's what the team wanted. That's why the floor is fairly decent for the Raiders for once. They're not going to go, 1-16. So good for Raiders fans. I know my buddy Jim from work's a Raiders fan. We always clown, but at least they'll have a half decent team this year. So let's move on. That is the AFC West. No bets for me. Like I mentioned last week, my future action, like preseason, hasn't been good historically. Mid-season, though, very, very good. So when we get these mid-season preseasons, that's why you got to tune in every week on Pieguys Pick'em for the mid-season bets. Now we move along. Arizona Cardinals. So we move along to the NFC West. What are they? Are they the third choice? I have the odds here. They're the third choice in the NFC West behind the Niners and the Rams. I like the Cardinals. Is Gannon on the hot seat here? They've always had, they've been this team kind of on the fringe of, the fringe of contention, make the playoffs here or there, have a good marquee win here or there, but nothing, sustained. They have a quarterback. That's good. They have, James Conner's pretty good running back. The big disappointment last year, of course, was Marvin Harrison Jr. And Jeremy on the preseason show, the fantasy preseason, called it of him. You can't be drafting this guy in the first round. He was completely correct. The people who drafted him probably did very, very poorly. Of course, Michael Wilson, he's a decent wide receiver. Like, this wide receiver doesn't really, it doesn't really inspire me. I mean, Zay Jones, it kind of reminds me of the Jags wide receiver room where they had like Christian Kirk and a bunch of wide receiver twos. It feels like a bunch of wide receiver 2s and 3s. You got 2 or 3 of them. It's not the best. Offensive line, Jonah Williams is pretty good. Right tackle. Evan Brown's a decent guard, but it's nothing special. Your quarterback, we know who he is, Mr. Call of Duty. Josh Sweat. That's a pretty good defensive end. You get the vet, Calais Campbell in the middle, Darius Roberts. This front four, Dalvin Tomlinson, could be pretty good. It's a little long in the tooth. How old is Josh Sweat? I feel like he's been around a while. 28. So he should be in the prime of his career. He's a pretty good edge rusher. I do like Josh Sweat quite a bit. This defense, the secondary is not great outside of Budda Baker. Max Melton and Will Johnson as their cornerbacks. But, you got Zaven Collins, linebacker. This could be a pretty good run stop unit. It could be a pretty good front four. Chad Ryland, place kicking. He's got a leg. I'm not exactly sure of the consistency. I'd rather have somebody, I'd rather have a guy who when we kick a 40-yard or kick a 43-yard, he's going to make it. Maybe the bombs are like 50-50, but Ryland's got the leg. He was very good last year, but I feel like he could be like a streaky kicker, and my kicker, I don't want streaky. Greg Dortch is a good punt returner. DJ Dallas is on this team. Oh boy. He'll be returning kicks. And then Blake Gilligan. Blake Gilligan is not a good punter. That's a concern for me. I believe, is this the guy I'm thinking of here? Let's double check. But he's not a good punter. This is the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, he's not good. So that's a concern for Arizona. Punting issues. We'll take a look at this. I don't really have a good read on this team. The NFC West in general is kind of a weird division. We'll talk about the other teams in a minute, but look at these prices. Like plus 160 is a favorite. There's no clear front runner in the division. Feels like everybody's live, but at the same time, it feels like everybody's not live. The Arizona roster doesn't impress me. I think their coach is decent, Gannon, but Again, I wouldn't be shocked if the Cardinals have the same season we've seen them have over and over again, where they have a few good marquee wins, and the rest of the year they are disappointing or average. They always give San Francisco a go. So look at their schedule. Pretty good start though. New Orleans, Carolina, then a couple divisional games: Tennessee, Indy. Green Bay at home. Maybe steal one. I don't think so, but Seattle at home Thursday night, but it's earlier in the season, so not the big advantage like we saw in the Chiefs schedule. Dallas on Monday night. Only 2 primetime games. That is noticeable. NFL is burying the Cardinals at 4 o'clock most weeks probably. Seattle, San Francisco again. Back to back again. Oof. You don't really want like the division game stuff like that. Obviously, the Rams have owned the Cardinals for McVay has just had their number. At Tampa's a tough game. You get Atlanta, but Atlanta's off the Thursday night game. That's a tough spot. Now you get the Rams 8-18. The Rams coming up Monday night on a short week late in the season. But it's back-to-back roadies. If this team does make the playoffs as a wild card, maybe they win the division. That's probably the only path they have to do well in the playoffs, because back-to-back roadies going into January is never a good sign when you're a wild card team, because that means you're going to have to win 5 straight on the road. Good luck with that. We're not win 5. We have to endure 5 straight on the road and win 3 in a row, the last 3, which is tough. So probably need to win the division to do anything. Their win total is, what is their win total? It is, I have it going across the bottom here. Here we go. Arizona Cardinals, 8.5. Orleans, Carolina, Indy, Tennessee, Dallas. Yeah, Atlanta. But Atlanta off the, it's going to be close. They're going to have to win some divisional games. They probably, you get Carolina. You don't know how good Carolina was kind of one of those teams that kind of found it a little bit last year, so you don't know how good they're going to be. Tennessee week 5, that's probably early enough where the offense hasn't figured it out yet. Indy's a disaster, But there's no there's New Orleans. It's a complete week 1 too. So it's a nice easy win. Hopefully, it should be a nice easy win, but you never know. Week 1 can be weird. The back half, there's no I guess maybe you say Jacksonville's an easy game in terms of right now, but I don't know who knows how good the Jags are going to be. Dallas, same thing. It looks like an easy-ish schedule right now, but maybe San Francisco is cooking. Maybe Seattle. If Seattle's any good, there's just potential in this division. And these divisional games are weird in the NFC West. They're always close. They're always tight. Arizona's probably win a couple. It looks like they have 4 wins early in the season. It looks like but then they might taper off. And look when the schedule starts to get tough, right when Call of Duty comes out. So expect Arizona to be leading this division, going into their bye, and then going home early. Of course, I'm being facetious with the Call of Duty comment, but realistically, 9 wins, 10 wins is probably the ceiling here. The Houston game's tough. Tampa game's tough. You're not going to win all your divisional games. The Green Bay game's tough. Dallas game's on the road. Cincinnati game's on the road. The Rams own your soul. I'm not excited about Arizona. I'm not, there's potential here. There's potential. But there's been potential in Arizona for years. So, 8.5 is probably fair. This is probably an easy pass. As we move along to the Los Angeles Rams, the Rams, I believe they're the second choice to win the division at plus 200. Their win total is 9.5 juiced or 10, depending where you're shopping. Obviously, the Rams won the division last. The Rams barely lost to the Eagles. They covered 2 playoff games because they won their first one against, I can't think who they played, but they won their first one and covered. And then they covered against the Eagles despite losing. I've heard people say that was the pseudo Super Bowl. Matt Stafford is back. Sean McVay is back. So, and the rumor has it that Aaron Donald may come out of retirement. Now, you can't I'm not making bets based on rumors. I mean, my goodness. I mean, you want to talk about an impact player, like a player that can change lines. And like, how many points is Aaron Donald worth? 3? Like, I mean, is he worth 3? He's so good. Talk about a non-quarterback being worth 3 points. I mean, they got Poona Ford from the Chargers. We talked about him earlier. Good run stopper. They drafted Jared Verse and Baden Fisk, 2 very, very good young talents. He got Byron Young. I like, Cam Curl's pretty good. See, there, the secondary, Quentin Lake, not my favorite. Akilla Witherspoon. These guys are kind of not great, but you got a good offensive line. Rob, Alaric Jackson, can he stay healthy? Rob Havenstein, can he stay healthy? The center guys have been pretty healthy. The Avila, Shelton, and Dotson. Good offensive line. Is it going to be Matt Stafford playing 17 games? Probably not. Were we probably going to see Jimmy Garoppolo at least once? Porn star Jimmy? Yeah, probably. But Jimmy Garoppolo, you can do worse. It's better than Stetson Bennett having to come in. So, obviously your skill position group is outstanding. I mean, Kyron Williams, running back. Puka Nacua. Devontae, Cooper Kupp's gone. In comes Devontae Adams. Probably a wash. Adams is very, very good. I still think he's got some tread on the tires because, I mean, considering he hasn't been on a good team in a while, he's probably going to be adamant to win. Probably going to be right there in terms of, there's not too much tread on the tires. I feel like he's playing on dog shit teams. How much has he been, trying after week 7? You know what I mean? Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington. I do like both of those as, your wide receivers 3 and 4. Just a solid team. Tyler Higbee. Yeah, their weakness here is tight end because behind Tyler Higbee, I mean, Colby Parkinson. I think they did draft this Terran. I think is this the guy? I know they drafted a tight end. Yeah, because he was picked in the 2nd round. Terrence Ferguson. He's a little dinged up here in preseason. It looks like, but there is if they can get some tight end contributions. Obviously if they get Aaron Donald, I mean, this team could be in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be shocked. This is a true contender, along with the Chiefs and the Broncos, I believe. These are contending teams, solid on both sides of the ball, and basically somehow drafted the only 2 good defensive players in last year's draft in Jared Verse and Baden Fisk. Now we'll take a look here at their schedule. Let me pull that up. It is a toughie. Houston, Tennessee, Houston, Philly, San Francisco, Ball. These are their 3 extra games. These are the 3 extra games. Okay, obviously the divisions they play the NFC and AFC South, so pretty easy in terms of that. But they're 3 extra games. Baltimore, Philly, Detroit. Does it get any harder? I mean, maybe Buffalo instead of Detroit, or maybe that's probably it. I mean, or the Chiefs maybe instead of Detroit. Like you can see, Baltimore and Philly are probably 1 and 2 power rated. Most teams, or top 4. Okay, you say Baltimore, Philly, Detroit, or not Detroit. Baltimore, Philly, KC, Detroit, and Buffalo are probably the top 5 of most people. You got 3 of them. Those are your extra games. Nobody else in the division has played them except you. But outside of that, it's pretty manageable. I mean, the AFC South, outside of Houston, and maybe Jacksonville, because you're playing Jacksonville in London, which kind of sucks because Jacksonville is scheduled. That's for most teams like, well, that's a winnable game. And it is a winnable game, but you're playing them in London where they played very, very well. They're on prime time late in the season, so they're expected to be fairly good. Tampa Bay, they've had Tampa Bay's number for a while. The way they've been built, they get Detroit, but Detroit's coming from mini bye. That's not great. A weird game against Atlanta on Monday Night Football. I don't know. That one might get. I don't know if they get flex money games, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see how good Atlanta is. They're like a big mystery, in my opinion, this season. So it's a manageable schedule. This team's clearly a contender. They took the Eagles, pretty good last year. They played well. They made the playoffs, won the division last few years. They have a Super Bowl with Stafford and McVay and these boys. There's that rumor, Aaron Donald. Why aren't they the favorite in the division? You know what I mean? Why isn't this team? I'm high on this team. I like the Rams. I think they're a good team. It's a preseason. You pretty much ignore what's happening in the preseason. McVay gives zero, shits whatsoever about the preseason. Why are they not the favorite? Why are the Niners the favorite? The Niners didn't have a great season last year. They're injury riddled, this, that, and the other. Well, I know most of the time we start with the breakdown and then we get into the schedule. But I want to answer that question, so we're going to start with the schedule for this one because I want to show you one of the ridiculously easiest schedules preseason that I've ever seen in my life. What's the toughest game to schedule besides the Rams games? Take away your divisional games. You have no choice but to play those three teams every year. At Tampa Bay, you get Houston on the road, but it's off Monday Night Football. So the Rams' extra games were Detroit, Philly, and Baltimore. San Francisco's extra games are the Giants, Chicago, and Cleveland. Yeah. That's why the Niners are favored to win the division. That's why the Niners win total 10.5 because they're playing, not only are they playing the AFC and the NFC South, they have a last place schedule because they are hurt last year. This could be one of the all-time easiest schedules. We could be talking about this is a team, the San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion, who could be overrated in the markets come December, January, because outside of the Rams, outside of the divisional games, and maybe that one game against Tampa, they're going to be favoring probably the rest of their games. At New Orleans versus Jacksonville at home, versus Atlanta at home. At Houston, but Houston's on a short week. At the Giants versus Carolina at home, Monday Night Football. At Cleveland, Tennessee at home. At the Colts, Chicago at home. Those are the non-divisional games. And then, of course, the Tampa game. But, it's just, man, the stars have lined up, and the 49ers might take advantage. Now, Brandon Ayuk is coming off an injury. Juwan Jennings is banged up a little, or not banged up, but he's holding out for his contract. So they have concerns at wide receiver. Brock Purdy, McCaffrey should be good to go week one. But your number one wide receiver might be Ricky Pearsall, who was shot, not that long ago. And then DeMarcus Robinson. Yeah, you need Jennings back, and you need Ayuk back. And this team could be very, very good. But, with this schedule, they have obviously the Trent Williams, arguably the GOAT left tackle. After that, they're all lines kind of, Colt McKivitz and Jake Brendel, okay, but, not Trent Williams. You go through the Niners depth chart right now. Look at all the questionables. I mean, it's like they're in mid-season form. But you can't bet this team under. But look at the schedule. This schedule is gross. The Rams, hypothetically, could win both against the Niners and still lose a division because just those extra games are just so hard. And the way the schedule sets up, they have to play Jacksonville in London. You can play Jacksonville at home. Santa Clara. You get to start week one at Seattle playing Sam Darnold before maybe he gets into that offense. Yeah, it's all the San Francisco handicap is the schedule. Obviously, we talk about the schedule. Thomas Morrison, that guy's old. I don't know about him. And Jake Moody's probably going to be the kicker. Like they have special teams issues. They got injury issues. Bosa. Now, this is preseason, but like just seeing all the questionables is funny. I'm not high on this team. Their win total is 10.5 because they have a fairly easy schedule. I don't know. But the question is, despite not being high on this team, they have McCaffrey, they have Trent Williams, they have Brock Purdy, they could have Jennings and Ayuk back by the time the playoffs come around. They could be the 1 seed with this schedule. They're going to be favored in 14, 15 of these games, probably. They're favored week 1. So at Seattle, and as soon as they start winning some of these cake games against, Indy and Titans, Cleveland, the Giants, Chicago. Well, Chicago's late in the season, but like, it's all like the Niners are overrated in the market right now, but they have probably the best chance to be the 1 seed. We saw Philly's schedule last week. We thought about betting the under at 11.5 just because the schedule is so damn hard. Well, obviously things change. Chicago could develop, teams could develop, but like not all of them. So do you bet the Niners to win the Super Bowl or the NFC right now? At the price, it's not. It's a juice. It's probably less than it should be. But they might have to win 1 game. Like what if they're the 1 seed and Atlanta somehow wins the South and pulls off an upset against Green Bay at home or Detroit or one of the North teams is expected to be the 5 seed. Or even Washington, like Washington's got issues on defense, and then you play Atlanta on the road, or maybe get the 5 seed who's coming in off of 3 roadies or something, or 2 roadies, and you've been sitting back at home. Kyle Shanahan cooks them. You basically just got to be, one like the Eagles or, one of the North teams. It could be a cakewalk to the Super Bowl, but injuries happen. Like we saw a few years ago, the reverse role where Purdy got hurt and the Niners didn't have a quarterback. So, should you bet the Niners? I wouldn't talk anybody out of it. I am. This schedule is easy enough, and this team has enough, good players that they could very well be the 1 seed. They could have home field, and when Philly goes to you, it's a lot different than going to Philly. Ask Washington. Ask the Vikings. It's a whole different ball game. So I might play a little bit of San Francisco just to have it in pocket. Just on the NFC Championship game, if they're favored or if it's close, I can hammer the other team and have basically a hedge off. Because I kind of think that this team's going to the playoffs. Probably. I don't know if their numbers make the playoffs, but I probably like minus 400 might be a good bet. I mean, this team looks unless the San Francisco injury bug happens again, this team's likely going to the playoffs. But we know with this team that they're susceptible to injuries. Kyle Shanahan's not very aggressive in the playoffs. So when this team is in the playoffs, I think they're a fade. But during the regular season, I mean, they might mollywop some of these cans. So it's tough. It's tough with a team like this. And now the final team, and in my opinion, the toughest team to handicap out of all the ones we're talking about. Like I kind of have a feel. I like the Broncos. I like the strong in the trenches. The Chiefs I'm worried about because of all the things that have happened, and that loss to the Eagles is pretty bad. The Chargers, we're missing a few skill position players, missing some defensive players. The Raiders are going to be better, but mediocre probably. Cardinals are a mystery. I'll give them that, but I mean, I kind of figure they're going to do what they always do: spark early, disappoint late. Rams and Niners are going to be good. Rams because they're a good team. Niners because of the schedule. I have no idea. Like this is a team that originally I said I thought I was going to be hammering their win total under. Their win total is I think it's 8.5. They're plus 550 to win the division. It's 7.5 or 8.5, and I was gonna hammer the unders. I'm like, there's no way Sam Darnold does this with this offensive line. Like I was like, you got, the million-year-old Abraham Lucas at right tackle, Charles Cross. He was good early in his career. Anthony Bradford, like this Olu Owatimi, Gray Zabel, it's a rough O-line, and it's especially rough up the middle. Like, Lucas is a good right tackle, but he's injury prone. Cross has been good since he's been drafted by the Seahawks a few years ago. These guys in the middle, question marks. And once you get pressure up the middle on Sam Darnold, he sees ghosts. However, Sam Darnold doesn't see ghosts. Jackson Smith-Njigba. He got Cooper Kupp from the Rams. He's not, what he used to be. You got Torrey Horton. I don't know. Is this a rookie scheduled to be their wide receiver 3? Who's this guy? Oh, he's around 5 pick. Okay, maybe he's flashing in preseason. This could be good news. Jake Bobo. I think Jake Bobo might be pretty good because remember they had Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN last year. So when you have 3 good wide receivers, it's tough to get guys like Jake Bobo with the ball. So I kind of have, I think, this upside on Jake Bobo. He showed me some things last year. You got this rookie Horton. You got MVS there for the one deep shot every game. But these guys up the middle, they gotta. I'm worried about Darnold seeing ghosts here, but, and here's the big but: those 2 games at the end of the season, right, against Detroit and against the Rams, cooked. Darnold. After a really, really good season. He had it going. Now, I know we had Jefferson. I know we had this elite offensive line. I know we had Kevin O'Connell. I know we had all these things. But nobody saw that from Sam Darnold coming. Can he repeat it? If Sam Darnold is what we saw for the first 16 weeks last year, this plus 550 is a bad number, in my opinion. It's a bad number. This team made the playoffs did they make the playoffs? They made the playoffs 2 years ago. No, they missed last year, I think, because of the they missed. They had that awful 6-3 game against Chicago, and I wanted to shoot. But and here's the big upside with Seattle. They had the awful 6-3 game. But why do they have an awful 6-3 game? Because their defense is very, very good. This defense is now it's arguably top 5 in the league. Now, there's no really good defenses in the league. You have Philly, the Broncos, Houston. After that, it's kind of thin. Last season, there weren't very many good defenses. This defense was Mike Macdonald, second year with Mike Macdonald's system. Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Ernest Jones, DeMarcus Lawrence, addition from Dallas, Leonard Williams, very, very good player. Byron Murphy, this is a good defense. Tyrese Knight looks like he's going to be the inside linebacker. I think there's a little bit of a camp out for that spot. But, linebackers, you got 1 or 2, you're okay. He was a 4th-round pick last year, Tyrese Knight. I'm pretty high on this defense. And I'm not a big Canine fan. He's pretty good in fantasy. Zach Charbonnet is, I think, is the better running back. We'll talk about that next week on Monday in the fantasy show. They have Steve Sims on this team. There's some depth here at wide receiver. I remember Steve Sims. He's a good kick returner. He will be their kick returner. Michael Dixon's a very good punter. Jason Myers is a solid kicker. Nothing special, but he's solid. So the big question here is Darnold. Do you believe in Darnold? With this offensive line, I can't do it. I can't bet the Seahawks plus 550, but I saw that number. And let's take a look at their schedule here before I get into it, because maybe I'll change my mind. Let's take a peek here into the Seahawks season. Where did they go? There it is. Okay, so Seattle Seahawks at Seattle. That's the Niners schedule. What is going on? So wrong schedule. So the Niners week 1. There we go. Niners week 1, but it's at home. Obviously, and they fired the office coordinator who was no good. I forgot to mention that. So who is the Seahawks' new OC? Let me just refresh my memory. Offensive coordinator. I had it written down, but not offensive line. So yeah, they got rid of the offensive coordinator. I think that was a good thing because he was no good. And Clint Kubiak, yes, the guy who remember the everyone thought the Saints were good last year. He had those 2 great games. So with Derek Carr, and then it all went to shit. So maybe Clint Kubiak's got some magic for that Niners game week 1. Their extra games are Pittsburgh. We talked about the extra games for San Francisco being easy. Their extra games are Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and Washington. So Washington's the tough one of those 3. Minnesota could be good. I don't know where to put Minnesota. I'll talk about them in a couple of weeks. But there's if they can beat San Francisco week 1, that game's 2.5. If Sam Darnold, this Clint Kubiak offense kind of surprises the Niners a little bit. Now I know it's a Niner, like it's the Shanahan tree offense, but maybe they can do something good. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention with the Niners, Robert Saleh being back is a big, big deal in my opinion. He's a good defensive coordinator, so that's another reason why it's like the Niners probably going to be in the playoffs, probably going to be pretty good, maybe a fade in the playoffs. So yeah, the Niners, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, you can be 3-0 there. Arizona Thursday Night Football, that can be tough. Tampa, Jacksonville on a short week. Houston, we get to Houston off the bye. That's not great. But it is Monday Night Football at 10 o'clock. So, maybe you catch them napping. That could be a little bit of the bye works against you. Those like really late starts after the bye on a Monday. Like that could be in favor of Seattle. And then you get the bye right after that. So, pretty good schedule early. At Washington. Off your bye, you get Washington, but you get Washington on a short week coming off the bye. You get Arizona on a short week the next week, at the Rams. Tough game there, but Seahawks have been the thorn in the Rams side for a while, thorn in the Niners side. Tennessee, Minnesota game's going to be probably pretty tough. I don't, God. Carolina. See, here's the problem. Look, back-to-back roadies end the season. So you got to win the division to have any chance of the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make, too much, but this defense is good. But does defense matter in 2025? What matters is Sam Darnold. He is the catalyst here. If Sam Darnold is good, the Seahawks will be good. But that interior line is just trouble. So I can't do it. But I would only, I think we got to watch the Seahawks, especially that Pittsburgh game. See how they handle that pressure from that defensive line. And the first 2 games for Seattle is going to be very, very telling. If Sam Darnold is cooking, don't hesitate. Probably bet Seattle, some Seattle prices because they're going to shorten quite a bit, especially if they win that Niners game early. But, the Rams are still there. So hopefully, you got to bet them before the New Orleans game for sure because we know what the disaster is there. But yeah, I think that Seattle's a team to watch, and I could see myself if they look. Now you worry that is it fool's gold with Kubiak like it was last year, but at the same time, New Orleans isn't going to exploit any sort of weakness. So yeah, I will be quick to pull the trigger on upgrading Seattle if I see Sam Darnold is not seeing ghosts and is seeing his wide receivers and seeing the defense as well instead. So that will do it for the NFC and AFC West preview shows. I would love to give you a best bet, but I didn't really have one. I was really... Let me take a look at this Broncos schedule one more time here. I think the best bet, Tennessee. It's that Giants game that bothers me. Oh, that's such a horrible, horrible spot. But if they sweep Vegas, because he's I will play small. It'll be small. It's going to be a small bet, probably about half a unit, something like that. But I will play Broncos over 9.5 wins. It's plus money. They got 10 wins last year, right? It's a little bit of a harder schedule. You're playing a second place schedule now. Or sorry, it's a third place schedule because the Chargers were second place. But it's still the AFC. You're still playing the AFC South. You can sweep them. You're still playing Vegas twice. They're better, but they're not anything great. But yeah, maybe I think I'm gonna play the Broncos over 9.5. That'll be the best bet. It'll be small just because they didn't really have too much action. Monday, Pieguys Pick'em. Follow me, of course, Pieguy971 on Instagram or at Salty Mangs on Twitter. I gotta get that media updated here. Monday, August 18th, Pieguys Pick'em fantasy football preview. I think we're gonna start a little later. I think we're gonna make that one a 7 p.m. Start because I think work is going to be busy that day. But Monday, August 18th, Pieguys Pick'em fantasy football preview show, and I will do my best to get Jeremy on the show. I think he's good. We talked about this earlier. Fantasy football preview shows. Check Instagram for the story and the update. Monday, August 18th, we will go through our first few picks. We will go through sleepers. We will go through avoids. We will go through all you need to prepare for your fantasy football draft. Join myself and hopefully Jeremy Monday, August 18th as we do the fantasy football preview show here on Pieguys Pick'em. Thank you for watching, whether live or on replay. And we will see you on Monday for the fantasy football preview. Goodbye.